Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. We are going to be going live in approximately 5 minutes, promptly at 12 p.m. So stick around, and we can't wait to have a chat. I see we have 5 people already tuning in. We're going to be live with Rosamaria in about 4 minutes. If you guys have any questions, please make sure that you pop them down in the comments so that we can answer some at the end. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in 4 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We will be live in approximately 2 minutes, so please stick around. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're here with Rosamaria Cristello. Thank you for joining us today, Rosa.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Rosamaria is the executive director of the Latino Community Center. It's their mission to empower, advocate with, and celebrate Latinos here in Allegheny County. Their vision is a community in which all Latinos are valued and have equal and equitable access to the resources needed to thrive. Rosamaria is the founder of this organization, and we're going to learn a little bit about her and her journey to a nonprofit executive director. So, Rosa, I want to start a little bit with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you come from and what your influences are?
Sure. So I was born in Guatemala. I came to the United States when I was 8 months. My parents brought my older sister and I to the United States when I was 8 months and my sister was about 2. And we moved to the Arlington, Virginia area. So, I grew up in that region. There's a lot of Latinos there, and been here ever since. I've traveled back and forth to Guatemala, but this has been my home.
So at what age did you come to the U.S. and what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so again, I was 8 months old, so I don't remember that. But we came because really this was the best opportunity that my parents thought for my sister and I to have a better life. So when we arrived to Virginia, my dad worked, really difficult jobs. We were undocumented for some time, and back then companies were more open to sponsoring people to stay. And so at that point, we were one of the families that were sponsored to stay in the United States. But, as many people's immigration journey, it's not that simple. Our journey actually had us go back to Guatemala, and we were stuck there. We stayed there for a couple of years when I was about 8. And then, we tried everything we could as a family to come back to the United States because this was our home. And so I think, like many immigration stories, it's one of instability and just going back and forth and so on, but yearning for a home. And so when we finally were stable in Virginia, I attended a school with primarily Latino friends, actually from all over the world, to be quite honest, but many of us were first generation. And so I myself ended up being the first from my family to go to college, but really not knowing even what college was. So a lot of what supported me was the education system. So the teachers I had, my counselors, my friends' parents who knew about universities and colleges and had that expectation for their daughters. I think of my best friend Jennifer, and her parents were just very much about you have to go to college, and they instilled that on me as well. My friend Gabriel, his mom was also a lot about that. It really took a village. It took a village to get me to where I'm to college. From some parents, specifically, I know my friend, his mom, Anna, buying me my first laptop, right? Because I didn't even know we needed a laptop to go to college. So then getting to the university setting, it was all about surviving there. I went to IUP, and that was just a whole different world for me there as well.
I can imagine that was, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So many people watching now, I mean, I think we'll have a little bit of a variety. We'll have half who have their own immigrant experience and half who just have no idea what it's like to be moved to this complete other culture, especially at a young age when you were younger and being separated from family members. So can you talk a little bit about that initial culture shock when you were when you first came to the US, and then compare that to when you went to college and the difference in coming to PA where it's not predominantly Latino.
Mm-hmm. I think my culture shock was more from going from Virginia to Guatemala when I was around 8 or 9. I mean, this was my home. Arlington, Virginia was my home. It's what I knew. And so the culture shock for me was to go back to Guatemala for a couple of years. And it was interesting. I had to go to school there, and it was, different. There was a lot of differences. The main culture shock, though, was when I came to Pennsylvania and when I went to college. And I remember everywhere I went, people would point at me and say, tell me. They would tell me that I'm Latina. And at first, it confused me because it's like, yeah, I know that, but people made a point. It's the second I came to Pennsylvania, people made a point to tell me that. And I didn't really understand it at first, but it was because coming from, Arlington, Virginia, where there's just, you have people from all over the world. We're humans. We just exist. We're friends. We're everything. And then coming to Pennsylvania and just, it's like I had a label on my forehead. And so that took some adjusting to. I quickly learned that I had to be, and I didn't have to, I chose to be more of a teacher at that point because there were people that I was the first Latina they ever met. And so I had to really explain to them, Latinos, we come from many different countries, we different cultures, and just it was something that I had to get used to, which was really teaching and explaining.
That's something that a lot of people who are associated with the chamber can identify with, but some people might not. I mean, when I look at you, I don't immediately think, oh, she's this or that. A lot of times people think that I'm Italian, for example. And I think that one of the struggles personally has been when people say, oh, there are no Latinos, I don't see them, I don't hear them. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience has been in that education and helping people understand?
So, yes, what I have shared with individuals here is I am giving you permission to ask me whatever you want around the Latino community. It can be a silly question, it can be a stupid question, whatever. But ask me so that you don't go back out there and accidentally offend someone from our community. And so I have decided to personally take that on and allow people that opportunity. But not all of us need to, and not all of us should. And so for me, I felt it a responsibility where I had to do that because people were already asking stuff and people were just wanting to just know and not want to offend. And so it's giving them that permission, like, just ask me whatever you want. I'd rather you ask me than accidentally harm or offend any one of my community members out there.
And do you think that being a Latina female in a leadership position specifically gives you any advantage or disadvantage?
No, I mean, I think you always have to look out for whenever you're presented with any opportunities to lead or be a part of a board or a committee or whatever. I think for me at this point, I do have to ask, what are the intentions behind that? Are you just asking me because you couldn't find any other Latina to join? Are you doing this to have your token Latina on your board, but are you actually going to listen to my recommendations and what I have to say? Like, am I actually going to have a voice, or are you just asking me to join because I am Latina? So it's just checking the box, yes.
Well, I want to learn a little bit more about your journey from when you started college to the nonprofit. Tell us a little bit about your education.
Sure. So when I made it to IUP, like I said before, it was a struggle. I didn't know anyone who had gone through that system before, not just IUP, but through college. And so I had to figure it out on my own. And back then, I I always share this. I mean, I went in as a pre-physical therapy major, and I came out with 2 degrees, one with GIS, so mapping, and the second environmental planning. And it took me switching my major 6 times to get to that. And that is a big no-no, but for me, it's the journey that it took for me to find where I belonged. And I ended up graduating from the geography department because they were more of a family to me. They really had that more one-on-one personal touch with students, and that's what I needed. I needed that support. And so while I was at IUP, I also had a mentor, Dr. Garcia, and he wanted to start a program for Latino youth who were essentially me, like first generation students. So we launched the program that's still up and running called CALSA, Caring About Latino Student Achievement. And so that's really where all this kind of started was, if I'm going through this, I'm sure a lot of other students are going through it. So how can we best support them? And then during that time, again, it's professors, it's the people around me that started to plant a seed and say, there's this thing called graduate school. What are you going to do after college? Like you really need to start planning, and we really think that you can go to graduate school. Again, I didn't know anything about that. And so I started to look into it. And so I applied to Pitt, and I got waitlisted, but eventually I got in. And I share that because one of my influences is Bill Strickland, and he also got waitlisted. So I don't feel too bad about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know that you're sharing that, though. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So
that's really interesting that you had changed that many times. Do you feel like you fell in the right place?
Yes.
We do. We think you did.
Well, so yes, GIS gives you that perspective of technology and looking at the world in different ways, using data to make decisions, right? And so I think that's very important. The way I landed in nonprofits, though, was different. I always had a heart for missions. I was any opportunity I had, I was a missionary, and so I would travel the world in mission trips. And so my heart's always been in serving and in helping. And so, I originally I wanted to do the Peace Corps, but I learned that I couldn't because I had a green card. I wasn't a U.S. citizen at that time. So when I found that out, that's when I pursued graduate school more intently, and so putting all that together, I decided I'm going to go in for nonprofit management at the GISPIA department at Pitt. And shout out to Pitt and GISPIA, yes. And so I went as a part-time student because that's the only way I could. I had to work. And so that really just kind of married all my passions. And then I quickly learned that I didn't have to go overseas to do the kind of work that I wanted. Here in our backyard, there was a community, my community, that really needed help. And I knew that because as a Latina that had gone through the education system here, I think I speak English and Spanish pretty well. When I first came to Pittsburgh, I experienced a lot of discrimination and really humiliating situations. And so I thought, okay, what's going on here? Like, what is going on? in this region. And I started to look around and just realize, no, something's not right. And the region needs help. It needs help in knowing how to work with and support the Latino community. And when I looked around, I saw the Latino community here is growing, and it was very much my family from 20, 30 years ago that was first coming to America. That was who was in Pittsburgh. You had your professional Latinos, but you also had your families that were just arriving, and they needed help. And so I kind of took a step back and realized this is an opportunity to provide to this community what I wish my family had when we first came to the United States, that support, that kind of hand-holding, that guidance on how do you make a life here in the United States. And so I stayed, and I've been working with the Latino community ever since.
That's wonderful. Well, can you tell us how you make a difference for those families from a perspective of someone who actually needed that when you got here?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't say I make it's the team, but I think it does start with the values that we set as an organization. And the team, when you're first onboarded and we do like retreats and so on. What I try to do is bring it down to that level and say it's Rosa at 8 months old with her sister, mom and dad. That's who you are talking to on the phone. Or a lot of our staff, many of our staff relates in some way or another with that story. They have their own immigration story. And so putting that into perspective of imagine it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your aunt, it's your uncle that are calling that need this help. How would you pick up the phone and work with them? What would you do? That's all you have to do. And then you quickly start to understand, okay, you spend a little more time with them on the phone. You actually have to go and meet them where they're at. Like that's what they need. So part of our values is empathy. And that is, for me, first and foremost, it's so important, is to put yourself in their shoes. And so I always ask the team, do that. When the phone rings, think about your mom, your dad calling. When the phone rings, or I get an email from family or a text message or a Facebook message or whatever, I think of, that's my mom or that's my dad that just sent that. How would I want someone to respond to them? And also knowing that the courage it takes to ask for help. So the courage it takes to actually pick up the phone or send that Facebook message or that text to someone for help, you have to acknowledge that, recognize that, and honor that. And there should be, if you're in a place of privilege to be on the other side of the line to help them, acknowledge that and work from there.
That is great. And I love your perspective on that, because it comes from a personal place, your personal experience. And now you're taking that and you're making the world a better place. So on behalf of everyone, I really want to thank you for the work that you do.
Of course. Thank you.
For those watching, we do have some Gispia students. They shared it within all of their groups, so they are watching. And those who aren't plan to watch later. So I want to touch a little bit on, when people think of education, they think of the traditional things. But one thing about you is that you've gotten some other forms of education too, through programs and other things. Can you share so that our students can know how to follow in your footsteps?
Sure. So yes, there's definitely the college route and graduate school, et cetera, but there's also other programs. I was very honored and fortunate to be selected as the first Barbara McNeese scholarship recipient. And that scholarship allowed me to go through the Women's Negotiation Academy at CMU, free of cost. And so that in and of itself was an amazing experience that taught me skills as a woman, as a leader, how to negotiate in different types of parts of my life, right? And it really gave me that perspective that I don't think I could have gotten from a graduate school education or whatever. it was very specific to women and the realities of society right now and what you're facing. And so there are definitely opportunities like that. And then through like the Heinz Endowments and Leadership Pittsburgh, which is a big, amazing program in our city that is for leaders in our region to really get, so their motto is they open eyes and ears because they really teach you about the region and all the different issues around a region and how we can help address them. What's our responsibility as leaders to help address education and everything around the region. So there are more specific and targeted opportunities out there for professional development that are key. Like you have to continually keep learning, for sure.
Definitely. Well, so in that learning, tell us where the Latino Community Center started.
Yeah, so we launched back in 2017. We were founded by a group of community members, and the LCC has always been an organization that was founded by us, for us. And so that was incredibly important because as a foundation piece, it was a lot of the work that had been done with the Latino community. So before launching the LCC, I worked with the Latino community and we did a needs assessment. I was very involved with the Family Support Network, et cetera. And so the LCC really came out of that. It came out of what were the needs of our community and what did they want? What did we want? And so it was founded back in 2017. Something I'm incredibly proud of is that it's always been led by our community. So our team itself, the individuals that work at LCC, 89% of us identify as Latino, Latina. At the board level, 80% of our board members identify as Latino, Latina. And that's in our bylaws. So that is by law. We designed it that way as an organization, is that at any given time, I can leave whenever, but our board it has to be governed by our community. And so that's been at the core of when LCC started, and it's going to continue to be the case, is that this is a center that is for us, and it should really be led by us.
That's a great standard to have, and I think it really speaks to not just checking the box, which is something that's so important today. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your programs, goals, and outcomes?
Sure. So if you think of LCC, we have really two main components. And so one is education and one is family services. And I'm going to explain that. At the core, like what is my personal passion is our kids, our youth, and ensuring that they have the tools they need to succeed. So if you recall back to my personal story, it's ensuring that the schools are prepared to support youth, that it takes a village to really support our youth in achieving their dreams, whatever that may be. It may be college, it may be a trade school, it may be whatever it may be, owning their own business, you name it. So our education department really focuses on that. From early childhood, we have an early childhood home visiting program called Parent Child Plus. It focuses on literacy. And so we have that program. And then we have after school programs that's called Soy Pittsburgh, and that is really for elementary aged. And then this year we're launching the middle school and high school piece of that. And so our education department really focuses on helping our kids both academically, but also in being proud of who they are. So we have amazing partners like Los Sabrosos. We have Alison Zapata, who is an artist that comes and does a lot of work with their kids around their personal identity and their home countries or the countries where their parents are from, and really take a deep dive in that and help them be proud of where they come from. And then we have partners like the STEM Coding Lab and others that come and they bring that richness of additional support for our kids. So it's really a great program. We had our after school program evaluated, and it showed that our kids are doing much better academically and both in attendance than the rest of the kids in that school. So it's definitely a model that we want to continue. And then we have the mentoring program under the education piece, where we mentor, we partner our middle school and high school Latino youth with Latino professionals. And so they are then partnered together and they learn from each other for the school year. And yeah, it's been a beautiful program to see. But then we know that our kids, that's all great, but we know that it's going to be harder for them to succeed if their home life is not supported as well. And so through the family services arm, we have a whole team that's focused on wraparound support. So what does that mean? It can be a family that needs access to food, needs access to an attorney, is going through a very difficult time, and whatever families may need, that's the team that will help address that, so that the child can have a childhood and get a successful education. We also have parenting classes under that through Triple P, and now through COVID, a lot we've actually had to add a food program where we deliver boxes of food to families. To date, we've delivered over 500 of those boxes to over 1,200 adults and over 500 children. Over 1,000 kids. And then we've also added emergency funding support because of just everything going on right now with COVID.
Yeah, you guys have made some pretty quick, big changes that have made a really good impact in the community. Again, the work that you're doing is tremendous. Can you tell me a little bit about that transition and how you assessed what needed done in the community right now during these hard times?
Yeah, so we looked at data. What were the calls coming in? What were they for? And so when COVID first really started to take hold in our region, the calls coming in were for rent support and food. And so that's how we had to pivot and change really our energy was towards that. And so we first looked at who's doing what, like what's happening with the food piece. And we learned that there were several food banks, and that's very important, but we had families that needed food right away. And so the model that we did was these food boxes were meant to address the immediate need, but then we had the team work with the family to make sure that they were connected to the food bank, that they were, that we got them any other benefits that would help them close that need. And so, so we really had to analyze what's the bigger picture and where can we fit in to put our energy into it.
So there are a lot of resources out there. A lot of people who have never previously needed this type of resource have needed them since COVID started. And one of the questions that I get is, with all of these resources out there, why is it that the Hispanic community or whatever other minority community needs something that's directly targeted towards them? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. So yes, Allegheny County and our region, we're very rich in resources, absolutely. But if you do not speak the language, it is incredibly difficult to access and navigate what these resources are. Even for an English speaker, it is difficult. And so it's not just language, but there's also immigration status that you need to take into account. And so our staff is primarily Latino. and so Latino or Latina. And so we are able to navigate these resources and come back to our community and say, this is the information. And every story is different. And so it makes a big difference to have someone working with you that understands the uniqueness and sensitivity to what a family is going through, because if you're not careful, it can greatly affect the family if you don't know the right questions to ask, etc. So we definitely don't work alone. There are definitely partners out there that we work with very closely, that we refer families to. And so we do not try to duplicate services. For example, if families need English classes or to get a GED, just this morning we interviewed Literacy Pittsburgh because they're a great partner organization that offers that. And so it's raising awareness of what's available and making sure that families are connected to that.
That's, again, great work. Everything that you say every time, I'm so glad that we have people like you and your team in the community. And with that, can you share some of your favorite stories, or maybe stories you've heard from other staff members of how you guys made an impact in either a single life or a family?
That's yeah, so we're very, very, very strong in confidentiality, and what we've learned with our families is even in sharing, without names, sometimes people can guess who it is. But I'll tell you that right now during COVID, we were expecting to serve around 100 families a month, with really supporting 100 families a month with one-on-one and so on. And we just closed out the month of July and we served 191 families. And so
That's great.
It is great, but it's also a lot on the team. The need is growing, but the capacity is not. And so I'm sharing that because just the other day, I have to do a lot of work with the team and listening to them and being there for them, et cetera. And I got to tell you that what gets us going and what's like fuel to us is those simple text messages that we get from families on a Saturday, a Friday night, or whatever, just saying, thank you, God bless you, you guys are amazing, you helped me with this and that. And so it's been incredible just how much we've been able to help, but hearing families say that, it means the world to us. And they can be very severe, like domestic violence cases that we had to follow and so on for a while. But it can also be just very simple, helping someone enroll their kid in school, or right now with the online virtual learning, and just how crazy all that is, and just providing information, and how grateful families have been, and how much peace of mind we've been able to provide with just bringing them the people that have the information. Here it is, here's in Spanish, here's the most updated information. That has meant the world to a lot of families, and that's what really keeps us going.
Well, on that note, we learned a lot about you. We learned a lot about your organization. There are some people here from GISPIA, from Chambers, from other nonprofit groups that want to hear about how you have done what you've done with this organization. Can you talk about just when it started? Was it just an idea? How did you move forward? And what was the first step?
Yeah, no, like I mentioned before, it was something that we had been working on for a while with the community, and so the first step was really building the team, which your first team is really the board, and making sure you're intentional about who you're recruiting to be on your board of directors. That is the most important piece, is you have to have a strong board. People that understand that it is a new organization, that they will be okay with, rolling up their sleeves and working for the organization. That's really your first your first team is your board of directors. And so for me, that was the first step, is who can I get to do this with me? Because you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. And so that is like that relationship with your board is so, so important. So the recruitment of a strong board was the first thing.
So you have this wonderful idea, you have all the education, you bring your board in. How do you get started, especially for people who don't have, say, other income or anything right away to monetarily get this going? What is that step?
I mean, I didn't either. It was a risk. But if you believe in the mission and it's really something that is needed, not just something you thought of and you're just going to do, if you have the support of the community that you are serving, if you have the strong board, then everything else will follow. It's going to be a lot of work. It absolutely will be, but everything else will follow. And for me, it was having not just a board, but an advisory board as well, that helped inform and guide me as to what are the next steps that we should be taking. It's taking it seriously. I mean, if you're going to do this, if you're going to stand up for a mission, if you're going to create an organization, then you have to bring others along with you, and at different levels. Like, you're going to have your advisors, you're going to have your board members, you're going to have your volunteers, you're going to have the community, which is first and foremost, inform you of what it is that they want. And it's your role to then just put all that together. And then everything else will follow. I mean, you have to hustle, but everything else will follow.
Well, it certainly has for you. And I think that hustle is something that you definitely have, and anyone looking to start something new needs to have. But one thing that I know a lot of organizations struggle with, and some of the questions I got ahead of time, they were asking what kind of staff you had when you started versus now, and how did you make those transitions?
Mm-hmm. When we first started, it was myself and a volunteer, Sophia, and it was just us. We weren't. I mean, it was just us getting started with our board. In the beginning, the board is really like your staff, and so that we were like that for the first 6 months. And it was all about just making sure we had a strong foundation. So we focused on one program, developing one program, which was the after school program, and spending a lot of time on our back end, ensuring that we had a good foundation and a good infrastructure to track data, to most importantly, track the funding. So if we were going to ask people to donate to LCC, if we were going to ask foundations to support us, that's a huge responsibility. And we needed to make sure that we were going to be able to be good stewards of that money. And so, $50, $25, that's very easy to track. When you start getting into the thousands, you need to have a system in place to make sure that from the moment that dollar leaves someone's pocket and goes to you, you're able to track it. And so it was data and keeping our finances straight. And so in the beginning, we contracted out to a different organization to do all of that for us, a much larger organization that already had that in place and that could train us and do that. And we made a contract with them where we said, when we're ready to take this on ourselves, we gave ourselves 2 years. Like, we're going to learn it, we're going to bring it in-house, but you need to do this for us right now. And that's how it was. I mean, we had phases of growth. And so after 6 months, we earned the trust of funders, and so we started to build out our programs and started to get contracts here and so on. because we had that foundation laid out.
So that's a really big initial step with just you and a volunteer to be able to contract that out. Can you talk about the initial essentially seed money and how you went from idea to even being able to pay yourself to that company to move yourself forward and continue that upward growth?
Mm-hmm. So we're very rich in resources, like I said before, our region is. And one of the, I think, unique aspects of Pittsburgh is how many foundations are in the region. And what I've learned is that foundations, they're made up of people who have big hearts and they genuinely want to help. And so that relationship building is key. Bringing them along with you is key. Not always seeking them to ask for money, but more to ask them for their thoughts, to be a thought partner with you. It's key because they get asked for money all the time. But if you think about it, they are in a position where they can see the bigger landscape of who's doing what. And I'm not saying that they need to call the shots or they need to do, you two work here and so on. No, but knowing that they have valuable information to provide to you. And so some people just see them as like a bank account, like, let me just go ask them for money. You should also see them as a wealth of information and a partner that can help guide you because they have that. And so for us, it was that approach. But also, again, it wasn't just an idea that, I came up with and the board came up with, and we just want to do this. It was an informed process from the community saying, these are our needs. This is who's in Allegheny County. These are our struggles that we're going through. And this is what's needed to help support us. And so, and I got to say, it's only a fraction of the community that took into account. Latinos there's no way that I can say I represent all Latinos. I do not. But I can speak to the families that we work with and we serve, which are over 300 families. And so presenting foundations with data and information and a solution and asking them to join you in that process is so, so, so important. And knowing that you're going to be rejected, I mean, that's okay. It may not work this one time, but it can work another time. And so for us, a big supporter from the beginning was the Heinz Endowments. They funded us to help get this started, but it was because we had a plan. And also the Jefferson Regional Foundation that helped fund the planning process. And so it has to be informed, it has to be strategic, and you really, it has to take into account like what the community needs. And if you have all that together and you're genuine and transparent, then it will follow. You will have people that will follow, and that includes foundations and money that will want to support your vision because you are being responsible then with what the community is asking you to do.
So after those initial asks, while we're on the topic, one thing that I know you are excellent at is not only maintaining those relationships, but making people feel appreciated. Can you talk about how you do that for your donors and the importance of it in fundraising for a nonprofit?
Yeah, I mean, again, just an email here and there of this is what we've been up to. This is what your support has done. I can't say we're perfect at it, actually. It's definitely something we need to work on because, especially now with COVID, the amount of support has been amazing, but keeping up with all of this has also been hard. And also acknowledging that who we serve. So families, they're going through a lot, and we are not an organization that feels comfortable posting a lot of pictures and so on of our families because it's a vulnerable time for families. And so what we have done is we've asked them, can we share your story, or a picture, but personal? Like, we will not be posting it online. We will be, however, sharing it with our donors, and only if you're comfortable with that. And more families are comfortable doing that, knowing that my picture is not going to be blasted all over social media. But it is important for donors to at least see, or read a letter of the impact that their support has had. So that's the approach that we've tried to take, and it's been somewhat effective. We're still trying to learn to see how else we could do it, but there's sensitivities there with the community that we serve, that we cannot be sharing things widely.
Definitely, that's understandable, and it's great that you respect their privacy over just putting things out there for visibility. That's a really commendable thing. Thank you for sharing a little bit with us about the fundraising aspect. I want to talk about your team. So when you started, you said it was you and one other person, but when you started building your team, can you talk about what are the important positions for nonprofits that are starting to have and get the ball rolling to become more sustainable?
So the approach we took was in ensuring that, first of all, we had competitive wages. So just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean that you have to pay nothing. Like, we value our team, we value our staff. And so our first hires, we wanted to make sure, and anyone, but when we were first starting, it's something I wrote into the grants. It was from the beginning, this is how much I need to get a stellar team, because that has made the world of a difference. One of our first hires was Emily, who's now our director of educations. And I couldn't have asked for anyone better to help start this journey with, because she has such extensive experience in the education world and working with students whose English is a second language. And I couldn't have asked for anyone better. So it was a competitive process, but she really stood out for her experience. And so I knew that she was going to come in and build a program that could then be incredibly successful. She is way smarter than me, so that's something that absolutely you need to hire people that are way smarter than you. And she, like, I've learned from her, and so in that regards, like, she has that entrepreneurial spirit. And it was just giving her the opportunity to shine. And boy, has she shined. And so your first couple of hires, you have to find people that are smarter than you, people that are hungry, and they're going to take it and just like do such an amazing job. And that was Sophia for me too. She was our volunteer. Now she's our operations manager, because she hustled. And I did everything I could to keep her once we were able to finally hire her. Because she is LCC, like, she personifies what we're trying to do. And so you find these key staff, and then that's just how you start building out your team. And now everyone we hire, the other thing is everyone we hire at LCC has to go through a rigorous interview process, where part of it is you're interviewing with community members. Every single person that is hired through LCC has to be approved by a group of parents and families that interviews them. And they have to pass that interview. And there are people that don't. We may love them, but if families do not feel comfortable with them, we cannot bring them on board.
That is awesome. Well, we've talked about your priorities, your staff, your fundraising, and your mission. Is there something else that you think is absolutely necessary for any nonprofit to be successful?
Just know you can't do it alone. Before you start a nonprofit, really ask yourself why, and is there anyone else already doing something that you can instead partner with or add to? In our case, it was kind of different. So what we're really trying to build is an institution. So if you think of what the Jewish community has done with the JCC, that's really, that's who we hold up here. So our board, our leadership team, we've met with the JCC's board and leadership so that we can see how then to build that for our community. It's really an institution. It is a staple that grows with the community. And so our programs may not always be the same, and I don't expect them to be the same, but our community center will be here and will be providing the support that the community needs at any given time. And so in order to be a successful nonprofit, you really have to ask yourself why you're starting this. It is a hard journey. Your intentions will be questioned. You have to have people that understand you, that you're vulnerable with, that can speak up for you when you can't. And you have to just be prepared. It is not an easy process, but if your heart's in the right place, if you have the right people around you, but most importantly, if you are hearing and putting what families need first, or whatever it is that the mission that you want to do, then you go for it. But it's a risk. It's a risk. And then you have to think about moments like now with COVID. You have to pivot, and things are going to be different. And so you have to lead. And I don't know what else to say.
Well, you've definitely said plenty, so don't worry about it. But a lot of people, especially from these nonprofits and GISBIA, et cetera, they wonder, what is it like to be an executive director? Why don't you tell us a little bit about an average day in the life and what you do?
Yeah, there is no average day. So our team grew from like 8 people to 20 people overnight right now in July. And so there's definitely a jump from when you have a team of like 8 to a team of like 20, and what your day-to-day is like. So that's a whole conversation for a different day. But right now it's a lot of HR, it's a lot of data, it's a lot of just making sure that your team has the support that they need to do what they need to do. My job is to step back and let them, again, shine and do what they need to do and listen. And so it is a lot of putting out fires. It's a lot of motivating. It's a lot of budgeting. So it's a lot of just forecasting. Budgets are your best guess. So you have to monitor it every single week if possible to make sure that you're good. So it can be HR, budgeting, finances, personnel things, you name it. You wear a million different hats, but first and foremost, you have to be there for your team. And I can't say I'm perfect at that at all, but at least be a sounding board for your leadership team. I'm in a place where the people that report to me are directors, and so they have their team under them. And so what support do they need to be able to then grow their team, and so on. And then just keeping a big part of what I do is I have to live 10, 20 years ahead of everyone else. And that can be frustrating. I know because I have to live in the now, but I also have to live in the future. And that can be hard, but you have to do it as Edie. It's your job. And then another big part is working with the board. You have a whole other team that's the board, and board development and donors and fundraising and so on. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, for our final 5 minutes, we actually have a bunch of questions. First, I want to address one from Kaylin Schick. She is with GISBIA, and she wants to know, she said, "Thank you so much for your impact in the community. I'm wondering what were the pivotal movements and skills that you learned in developing your professional confidence?"
Oh, my confidence. Man, I'm still learning a lot about that. So I think that not a day goes by where I don't question myself and so on. And I think they say it's lonely being a leader, and that's very true. But I thought it was for different reasons. And I think what it is that you're just going to be questioned a lot, and your integrity is going to be questioned a lot. But at the end of the day, what gives me confidence is, again, the families, and knowing that they are receiving the help that they need, that they are voicing that they are proud of the work that you're doing. So, to me, that's families. To others, there may be, other recipients. But for me, my confidence comes from that, is making sure that the people we are here to serve are happy with what we're doing and that they are being served. Professional development wise, I mean, there's a lot of books out there on leadership. Read them, take what you can from them, but don't be too hard on yourself, because everyone's trying to sell you on being perfect, and that's impossible. So yeah, it's a whole other interview.
Well, it's a work in progress like anything in life. I think so many people look at someone who's at an executive director level and they think this person has everything figured out. And for our audience, know that no matter what you're doing, no matter what level you see someone at, nobody has it all figured out. So you're just in there with the rest of us.
Right. Yeah. We're all guessing. We're all doing the best we can. But again, it's through data. It is through smart guessing. You have to back up what you're saying. And so, yeah.
Our next question is from Fred Ramos. He is the Vice President of Communications at Highmark. Don't quote me on that, but that's very similar. Sorry, Fred. But he says the LCC clearly needs our financial support. How and where can people, for organizations who are interested, make a contribution to the LLC? Or
yeah.
LCC?
Absolutely. Well, so our website is www.latinocommunitycenter.org, and there's a donate button there that you can absolutely go to. You can donate once, or you can become a monthly donor, which we highly encourage. It helps with our forecasting quite a lot. And then you can always send checks through PayPal. There is a fee that they take out, so that checks are always welcomed as well. And that is, they should be made out to Latino Community Center, and then mailed to our address at 212 9th Street, 5th floor, Pittsburgh, PA 15222.
And you can always check out their website as well. I'm going to put the link, and you can click anywhere that we've put this, or just Google and they'll come right up. Our next question is from Tepilton Gomez. When starting an organization, we often have assumptions that are wrong. Can you talk about something that has surprised you about the LCC's journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that has surprised me about the journey is, I think, again, the role of the board is so important. And I think I underestimated that at first. And so I think spending a lot of time on your board development, who's on your board, that I think is just, it's really, really important. And I can't say it surprised me. It's just something that became, it's very important for a nonprofit to do.
On that topic, so Dan Garcia had a question. This one's a little he sent it directly, so I have my phone, but
okay.
That, I'd also be interested in what else a board does to advance the mission. What makes a strong board? Is it financial commitment, time commitment, mentorship?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Opening doors is a big role that an effective board can help do. It's financial support, absolutely. That's definitely key for a board, but also what are your skills? So for example, we have a finance committee, and having individuals there that are knowledgeable about finances and can take the time and do understand the spreadsheets and the this and the that we present to question me back and say, why are you thinking about this? Why is this number that high? Or why is this number so low? You need those people that are going to push back and question you on some of these things. One of my a board member I value so much. I value all of them, but one of the board members I have, I just call her up to vent sometimes and just kind of, she's someone that I can just like brainstorm with and throw things up in the ceiling with, and like, she's just there to listen. And that is, to me, such a valuable thing, because again, it's lonely, but having a board member that can be there and not judge you and just ask you questions and keep things confidential, those are very, very important. And then board members that are constantly sharing your mission and constantly, like I said before, opening doors. I have limited time in my day, as everyone does, but a strong board is one that's out there and is constantly looking for opportunities that align, not necessarily opportunities that they wish, because that can be a distraction to the ED or to the organization. But board members that ask, would this be beneficial for you or not? And board members, I mean, I have an excellent board. I got to say, I have an excellent board. They're all very committed. They actually come to board meetings, which I hear is a challenge for other boards. Our board is totally there and engaged. And to me, that means so much, because it's even just having me come to them and present to them, this is where we're at, and then being genuinely curious about where we're at. Some board members have volunteered for our mentoring program, which means so much. Some actually go to our after-school programs, which is wonderful. So yeah, I hope that helped answer some questions.
Absolutely. Well, we're approaching the end here. Sorry about that. But I just wanted to know, is there something that's next that you have in the works that you're excited about that you're able to share with us, either professionally or about the LCC?
I guess two things coming up. We have our Back to School Bash, which is in the week of August 17th. So, it's really an annual event that we do to kick off the school year for our kids. We really want them to know, we got your back. We're so excited that you're about to start this new school year. Education is so important. And like, we want to make you feel special and want you to know like how big of a deal education is. So it's usually a one-day event that the Pittsburgh Pirates have partnered with us in the past. This year, because of COVID, it's a week-long virtual events. We're going to have different workshops. And so that's coming up. And we do need volunteers to help us deliver book bags to our families. It's book bags and food and so on that we're going to, on Wednesday, August 19th, we're just going to go and deliver it to over 100 families across the region that have signed up. So we do need volunteers for that. And the last and final thing is we are in a journey where we need to look for a permanent home for LCC. And so right now we are renting space from Catholic Charities. But within the next couple of months to a year, we really want to find where is this location going to be for our community. And we envision a center that's, it's for our community, and it's going to be designed and built by us. And so stay tuned for that information. If you want to stay tuned, just reach out to us at info@latinocommunitycenter.org, and we'll make sure to include you in our newsletter and in that process. You're muted, Melanie. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you for joining us. This has been great on so many levels. I think that students, professionals, nonprofit, people in the nonprofit world, everyone has something that they can learn from you, even just your kind heart and your drive. I hope that everyone watching connects with you. I put her LinkedIn in the chat. I also put the link to the Latino Community Center. If you guys want to visit their website, it's latinocommunitycenter.org. You can donate on there, see what's coming up with them. And so thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being on, Rosa.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share a little bit. The speaker series is an initiative of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Its goal is to share relevant information, inspire growth, and foster opportunity. Our speakers include leaders and members, as well as other individuals who have a positive impact in not only the Hispanic community, but the Pittsburgh region at large. You can tune in next week, August 11th at 2 p.m. to chat with Fred Ramos. He's one of our board members and also the Senior Vice President of Communications at Highmark Health. You can learn more about our speaker series and our upcoming speakers at pmahcc.org. And if you would like to become a speaker, you can go ahead and email me, write in the comments, just any contact with the chamber. But my email is Melanie, Melanie, Marie, Marie at pmahcc.org. Thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.